So I have to be honest. This next segment is my director's fault, because we've been talking about leadership. And he asked me an important question. He said, what are the important things to know about the best practices for changing behaviors? Makes me sound like a therapist now. And you know, you may feel like a therapist, and that's where I want to draw the line. Look, you can't change anybody. And there are certain circumstances and behaviors and personality quirks and even disorders that require therapy. So let's just put that on the table right now. Behaviors can be a touchy subject. And there are some things we can do if it's not psychological, if it doesn't require that kind of outside help, and if the person is willing. So let me give you 3 best practices. And what I encourage you to do as you play with these and use these is watch for the need for additional help. So as you start to use these best practices, don't hesitate to refer people out to therapy or other support if needed. Don't hesitate to bring in outside help, other managers. And most importantly, don't hesitate to allow people to move on with their lives, because sometimes behaviors are an indicator that it's time to let go. I don't quote a lot of poetry in my work. I can't even talk, let alone say poetry right now. So I won't quote the poem, I'll just tell you the essence. And it's something along the lines of that relationships last for a reason, season, or lifetime. A reason that an employee came into your life. A season, a period of time, or a lifetime. That lifetime is the exception, not the rule. So this last piece about behaviors is sometimes the behavior is telling you the reason or the season is now done, and it's time to let them go. With all that said, let's assume that we can change behavior, help somebody change their behavior. 3 best practices. Okay, number 1, you got to help the employee design what the new behavior looks like. If you're going to get to a different place, a different destination, you have to know what it is. I'm actually in Cleveland, Ohio today in our studios, and if I want to drive back to visit my parents in Canton, I got to know exactly where that is, and thankfully I do, because that's where I'm sleeping tonight. It's the same thing with a destination of new behavior. You have to know where that is. This should be a collaborative effort between you and the employee. If you tell them, you need to start behaving this way, that's your idea. What's better is, let's design together how we want your behavior to change so it serves the organization but still serves you. So that's number 1. Number 2, we have to have accountability. What's interesting, if you look at the diet and exercise industry, it is an industry, and I talk about this all the time in my Radical Accountability program, it's an industry based on poor follow-through. That industry would be much smaller if people lost weight on the first diet, or got healthier with the P90X or whatever that new thing is. And not that there's anything wrong with those products, it's the people using them that don't follow through. So when you design the destination, you have to have in mind how you're going to get there. And so that includes the accountability, and then the last piece, number 3, the action plan. Now, the action plan is not yours. You've helped the employee design what it's going to look like when they get there. You're part of the accountability. The third piece, the reason it's number 3, is they come up with the action plan. It's their job to come up with how, it's not your job. You send them away. They come back and say, here's how I'm going to make it happen. You look for specifics, because you can hold people accountable to specifics. That's it. 3 very simple best practices. And remember this, to all those leaders out there, you cannot change other people's behaviors. You can only create the opportunities for them to do so. If you use these best practices, it does just that. The outcome is not your responsibility. You will know that you've done your part, and whatever happens, you've done your part, whether it's worked out or they've had to go. Either one's okay, because you both did your part.